on to a Wednesday hump day edition of Bet. She is Erin, Dolan. I am Tyler Fulghum. We're running the two-person weave here on Bet for the next 30 minutes. On 15 minutes late, but we'll still go to 30 up until 4:45 p.m. Eastern. A reminder, as always, from the suits, Erin. Some of you may already be watching here, but youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting. If you are not already subscribing, following, commenting, absorbing all the content we put on there, what are you waiting for, baby? Go out there and get it. All right, Erin, we have a jam-packed show. NHL Playoffs, NBA Playoffs. The Puck Daddy will be here to talk about those games on the ice. What a fun postseason it has been in both of those leagues so far. Very early in the NHL, but I'm ready to rock and roll for my Blues Game 2 tonight. You also get your Philadelphia 76ers Game 2 tonight. So, are we ready to have a little fun?
Yes, we're just a little bit fashionably late, and that's totally fine. It happens sometimes. But like you mentioned, Sixers are on tonight. I don't know if I should be really upset about that or really excited about that. So we'll deep dive into that.
Well, I like to consider both of us fashionable, so I like that you said it's fashionably late here on Bet, but we'll still have a jam-packed show. We're going to start by flexing our vocabulary. It is the good word. I read a prompt, I say a statement. You tell me the first word that pops into your head. Let's start in that NBA postseason first and foremost, Erin. The Memphis Grizzlies tied up their series with the Golden State Warriors at 1 apiece behind 47 from Ja Morant. So now going back to San Francisco, tied up at 1-1. The Grizz are plus 290 to win the series and advance to the Western Conference Final. What is your good word for the Grizz at plus 290 over the Warriors?
My good word is veterans. Now, the Warriors are just the veteran squad here, and I actually think they're going to pull off this series. And I also think when you look at this line and you see it at plus 290, it's telling that with this series even, that odds makers still think the Warriors have such a chance to win it, because we're going to talk about this as well, but with the Celtics and the Bucks, that line is a lot tighter, and they, of course, are 1-1 as well. Now, Ja Morant was absolutely sensational. 47 points, career high for him last night. That was absolutely insane, and that game one was pretty tight where he missed that layup at the end, or that shot, I should say. So I do think there's ways that you could argue that the Grizzlies could make a push for this, but I really think the veteran squad's going to pull this off. I mean, they're way too good compared to this Grizzlies team. I know the Grizzlies look so much better this season, and Ja's been great, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to sustain the way he is playing, especially when he carries it onto the road down in Golden State.
I agree completely. My word is chase, as in you might be chasing something you can't catch if you go make this bet on the Grizzlies. And that's also the name of the home arena for the Golden State Warriors, the Chase Center in San Francisco. And the reason I don't think Memphis can win this series is because I don't think they're going to win a single game in San Francisco. At Chase, this postseason, the Warriors are a perfect 3-0. They have a plus 13.3 net rating, which is the best home net rating of any team in this postseason. They're a dominant home team with a dominant home crowd, and those veterans who don't give games away or miss shots on their home floor. So, yeah, chase is the word for me. I think you're chasing something likely not to happen with Memphis in this series, because the Warriors, I don't think they lose any of the 3 games that they get on their home floor, and they've already stolen one from the Grizzlies on the road. All right, let's move to the Boston Celtics, who rebound from their Game 1 loss to kind of thrash the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 2. So this series is tied up at 1 apiece as we transition to Milwaukee. The Celtics, a minus 130 favorite to win the series, knotted up after 2 games. What's your good word?
The good word is sheesh, and you can figure out how many E's you want to put in that. I don't have a preference, but this series is going to be absolutely so tight. I mean, I can't even get a feel for this series whatsoever. The Bucks, when they won the Game 1, we were like, okay, well, now we're seeing a really good team go against the Celtics, and they're folding a little bit. And then the second game, they completely jumped out and surprised everybody, and the Bucks were just not able to come back. Giannis was absolutely shut down, which was also surprising. But I do really feel in this series, the X factor is going to be Jaylen Brown. He wasn't good that first game, was absolutely spectacular come that second game, and the Celtics really need to make sure that he's able to stay healthy for this series if they do want to make a push for that. But also, both these defenses are just so good that I almost feel like they just compete back and forth with each other in terms of that, but it's really about who just gets hot on offense. That's why I'm so nervous to even bet this series, because I really think you have to handle it game by game. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if this went to 7 games.
I'm glad you said that, because I on purpose, or purposefully, put 7 E's in there for sheesh. Because I think this is a series that can likely go 7 games. I can't tell who's going to win. I think Boston's the better team, but Giannis is the best player in the NBA, the best player in the universe, and he is a great X-Factor equalizer. So, yeah, I, like you, think this is going 7 games. I don't really want to bet on either, but my word is home. So, in a coin flip 50-50 series, I'm not surprised to see the Celtics now as the minus 130 favorite to win this series, even though they've split the first 2 games, because Game 7, should we get there, which I think we will be at home for the Boston Celtics at TD Garden. So, yeah, you and I see this similarly. I'm using the word home, trying to explain why the Celtics are that slight favorite. You say sheesh, because it's hard to bet, considering how evenly matched these two teams appear to be. All right, final one here in the good word to Major League Baseball. The Yankees have won 11 straight games. They are the hottest team in Major League Baseball. They're plus 850 to win the World Series. What's your good word on that price?
Easy word for you here. We are going with early. It is way too early for me to be predicting who's going to win the World Series. Kudos to them for winning 11 straight. That's absolutely awesome. But again, we are coming into May. It is April and May months that you are winning these games. That's not really important because what matters is what happens in the fall. And that is a long time away. Injuries could happen. They could go cold. There's so many variables in terms of who's going to win the World Series. Now, of course, you take the risk. You might not be able to get this price ever again for certain reasons. So there's always that risk there, but I also think there's a risk in putting money too early into the season as well. So for me, too early.
I understand that. I kind of agree with that. My word is national. As in, yes, the Yankees are hot right now and they look great, but I think the best teams in Major League Baseball reside in the National League. The LA Dodgers, of course, with all the money they spend. The defending national champion, or World Series champion, Atlanta Braves. They're also the defending National League champions. The San Francisco Giants, who appear to be every bit as good as they were a season ago. And then the New York Mets. I don't even think the Yankees are the most likely team in New York to win a World Series. The Mets look awesome this year, adding Max Scherzer, and they haven't even had Jacob deGrom toe the rubber for a single pitch yet so far this season. So having Pete Alonso, having Francisco Lindor bounce back, adding Starling Marte, grinders like Jeff McNeil, that two-headed monster for a series in the postseason of Scherzer and deGrom, should deGrom return, other depth starters like Cookie Carrasco, Tyler McGill. I think the Mets are the better bet to win the World Series in the city of New York. So that's why I say national. Better teams in that league, and the better bet in the city of New York in that league as well. So that'll do it for the good word. Good vocabulary from you, Erin Dolan. Let's move to the NBA. We got 2 games tonight in the association. Let's start with a game 2 that I'm sure you will be interested in, my friend. The Sixers and the Heat. Miami pretty dominant in Game 1 over your Philadelphia 76ers. So we come back here for Game 2. Still no Joel Embiid. The Heat are an 8-point favorite, total of 207.5. I'm looking to play an under in this game. It's not the game total under, but a team total for the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm going under 99.5 points. I know that's crazy low, but you see they scored just 92 in Game 1, Erin, as you well know. And I don't know what's going to change in Game 2. I don't think positive regression is coming for this team offensively. The Heat have the second best defense in the postseason so far, behind only the Milwaukee Bucks. We know they've been a dominant defense with guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo all season long. It's much easier to guard the Philadelphia 76ers since Joel Embiid is out. And James Harden is what he is right now. He's just a average offensive player who's not very efficient. Tyrese Maxey, a much different scorer, a much less prolific scorer on the road than he is at home. So I think the Heat, behind Butler and Adebayo, will be able to once again make it difficult for your Sixers offense and limit them to 99.5, or I guess 99 points or less in this one. No halves are given out before half-made free throws. That's why I kind of lean Heat -8. Don't love it, but I do think their defense once again stifles your Sixers.
Yeah, I definitely don't like the spread at all. So I will be looking at the total as well. I'm shockingly going to go over 207.5. So last game, it closed at 210.5, clearly went under. And I actually think Tyler makes a great point about this going under. That was one of my favorite bets for game one, under 100.5. And now obviously it's moved down to 99.5. But I actually do think that there's going to be positive shooting regression because it was absolutely tragic in game one. The 76ers shot 17.6% from beyond the arc. That is absolutely terrible. And as for the Miami Heat, they weren't much better. They went 9 for 36 on three-point attempts. So I do think in terms of that, we will see some of these shots end up falling. I also think defense could start to kind of dwindle a little bit. The 76ers all around aren't looking good on offense or defense, but I think that just some of these shots eventually are going to fall. It might end up being the Miami Heat are able to put up, 110 and the 76ers get close to that 99.5, but just for me, I think it's getting a little bit too low, might be a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction there, so going with the over.
We can thread the needle there. Let's just have the Heat score about 120 or 125 of those points, and 95 will still get us over if that's all the Sixers bring.
Get us out of our misery.
I do think, though, Erin, all 6 Miami Heat playoff games have come under the total this season. I'll double-check that. Let's get to the prop market real quick. You see Harden, Maxey on the Sixers side, Butler and Adebayo, the 2 big stars for the Miami Heat. Any player prop that you think is worth dabbling with in this matchup, Erin?
Yeah, so I think you could look at James Harden, definitely go under his points, rebounds, and assists just because it's so high right now. I think that'll be a popular play. Victor Oladipo, as well as PJ Tucker, did a great job at limiting him. He doesn't look like the vintage James Harden, but at the same time, I don't think that's an overreaction from game one. I think this is something everybody talked about. As soon as the trade happened, we knew that this was going on. Even when he was on the Brooklyn Nets, he just doesn't look like the same player that we've seen in previous seasons. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were able to lock him up again, which then leads me to a player like Tyrese Maxey. I know this is like a tough one to kind of buy into, but I do like him over 2.5 made threes. I gave this out earlier on This Just In. The reason being is, like I mentioned, they shot terrible from beyond the arc. Eventually, we're going to see some positive shooting regression. Some of the role players need to step up. He went 1 for 6 last game, so he did get those looks. I just think tonight he might be able to actually hit them because we really do need to rely on these role players like Maxey, Harris, Niang, and even Jeff Green, I would argue, since Embiid's out. So I do like those 2 props for tonight.
Yeah, they need Maxey to show up, no doubt about it, without Embiid. I am going to echo your sentiments with James Harden. I'm tailing that under 40.5 points, assists, and rebounds. He had just 30 in game one, so we have some cushion as far as positive regression. Even if he's much better, 8 points, assists, and rebounds better than he was in game one, we still are going to cash here. Bottom line is the focus that Butler, Adebayo, PJ Tucker, Victor Oladipo, you mentioned as well, the entire Heat team defense can put on him is making life difficult for him, especially in the scoring column. And I just think the Heat defense is going to keep their scoring down, so that's going to limit his potential assists. He's not the rebounder he once was earlier in his career as well, so I agree with all those sentiments there. I'm going to go back to the well with Jimmy Butler and a player prop that didn't cash for me in game one. But I'm going to ride it here again because of this plus 120 price. So if we hit it here, we're still up over the course of the 2 games. Almost a quarter of a unit. Over 2.5 steals. He had just 2 steals, no blocks in game one. But because it was kind of a blowout, especially in the fourth quarter, he only played 30 minutes. So we've seen Philadelphia turn the ball over a lot. Butler has been over this total in 3 of his last 4 games. Love the plus price, and I'll go back to the well there, hoping that we go 1-1 in games 1 and 2 and still end up, a fifth of a unit, actually, when you even things out. So that's the way I'm looking at the player prop market with you, Erin, in our first game tonight. Let's pivot to our second game tonight. That will be Mavs Suns. Also a game 2. This one in Phoenix. Now, Phoenix looked pretty gosh darn dominant in game 1. A nice fourth quarter for the Mavs, and Luka Doncic made the score a little closer than it probably looked for most of the game. But Suns laying 6, 216 total. Mavs, again, they were trailing by as many as 21. Can they get back in this one and even up at 1 apiece? Erin, I'll start with you. Side total, what do you like in this one?
So I'm leaning in terms of taking the points with the Mavericks in this. Now, you did talk about that fourth quarter. The Mavs really made a push to come back, but I will say DeAndre Ayton was not on the floor during that time. Cam Johnson came in, and Ayton obviously was sensational this first 3 quarters, but I do not really trust the Suns in terms of that second half of games. That was something I was really concerned with when they played against the Pelicans. They would come out, look great in that first half, which maybe you look at the first half line for this. Then come that third, fourth quarter, they kind of, let off the gas a little bit. But I do think that the Suns, they played so well in that first game that I'm not sure they're all going to be able to sustain that. I mean, I know Devin Booker wasn't able to put up a tremendous amount of points, but he was really great in terms of rebounds and assists. He was a great facilitator, in that game. I just think that the Mavs are going to keep this one closer because there's so much on the line, and also the role players did not play well. Obviously, everything was left on the shoulders of Luka Doncic, which, again, it will be. But I just think the role players will play better. This will be a tighter game than we expect, and they'll be able to cover that, with the points.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of lean Mavericks as well. I'm not, disturbed or, taken aback by what we saw in Game 1. It is just one game, and I do trust the Mavericks over the course of this series to make it competitive. So I'll take the 6 points because I like the 5.5 in Game 1. Now, although a lean is kind of how I feel about the side, I really like the total going over 216. I mean, these two teams combined for 235 points in Game 1, and you can expect some regression. That is fair. I don't know if Luka will score 45 again, but we can probably book him for 35. But those other role players like Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie will probably play better. And the Phoenix offense is going to drive this. Even though neither of these teams likes to play particularly fast, Phoenix is wildly, wildly efficient. Even having games this postseason where they have missed Devin Booker, they have shot at least 50% from the floor in every single playoff game they have played this postseason. They are just a ruthless, efficient offense. That's because you got guys that can knock down threes and you have the point guard getting you all those easy looks. So for a team that has the best offensive rating of any team this postseason, has yet to shoot under 50% from the floor in any playoff game, and with the Mavericks playing on the road and not at home where they're an under machine, I'll go over 216 because we have some margin for error even with negative regression since they scored 20 points over this basically in Game 1. All right, let's get to the player prop market just like we did for Game 1. Take a look at the biggest stars that we have in this matchup. Of course, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul are those studs. Doncic, I mean, that's pretty much his averages in playoff games in his career. We know Booker can fill it up with the best of them, and CP3 had a rather modest Game 1, but he only played 28 minutes in that game. Only 3 assists as well, which you usually don't see from CP3. I want to start with Luka Doncic because I don't think this is hyperbole to say, as far as box scores are concerned, he's the greatest postseason performer the NBA has ever seen. He's averaging 33.4 points per game in his playoff career. That's 17 games, all right? Now, Michael Jordan also averaged 33.4 points in his playoff career. Played a lot more games than 17, I'll grant you that. But Luka only averages 38 minutes per playoff game. MJ averaged 41. So Luka is basically equaling MJ with 3 less minutes on the floor. And of course, as great as MJ was, he's not giving you 9 rebounds and 9 assists as well. So Luka, 51.5 is his par, which is wild. And regression is coming. He's not going to score 45 points, but I do think 35, 10, and 10 is well within range for Luka Doncic in a game where he'll probably play north of 40 minutes again because they will try to empty the clip. The Dallas Mavericks desperately wanting to go back to Dallas with this series tied up at 1 game apiece. So yeah, 51.5 is high, but I'm never taking an under with Luka in a postseason game with the way that he has performed. All right, as far as Devin Booker is concerned, Erin, any prop that you want to play with Book?
Yes, I'm looking at his assist prop. I think it's pretty low at 4.5. Now, last game he had 8 assists, but he had a potential 17 assists in that game. The Dallas Mavericks are great at defending the perimeter, but they're not good in terms of the paint, but they're good at defending the perimeter. And I think that they're really forcing Chris Paul as well as Devin Booker to pass that ball off. And I think that Devin Booker will be able to hit over this just considering how low it is and if they really put a lot of pressure on him. And he'll be just a great facilitator once again and impact the game in different ways than just scoring. I know he had 23 points in that first game, which is kind of unlike him. Usually he's able to score a little bit more there. But again, Dallas is just so good at defending the perimeter. And then one other one that I just wanted to mention, because I did talk about this on This Just In earlier, DeAndre Ayton going over 29.5 points and rebounds. There's really nobody to defend him on the Mavericks squad, so I do think he'll have another big game and probably continue to see his minutes increase. They've been coming up an average of 5 minutes from the regular season to now the postseason, so I think that he'll have another big game as well. But Devin Booker over 4.5 assists as well.
We'll take bonus picks that you offered with Max on This Just In. Always love that. I want to go back to CP3 real quick because I do think we see a bounce back performance. I mean, not that he wasn't bad. He just didn't play a lot of minutes in Game 1. I mentioned I like this game to go over. That's why I was comfortable with Luka going over his massive points, assist, and rebound total. I'm going to do the same with Chris Paul. He only played 28 minutes in game one, barely broke a sweat. 31.5 is what we need. 32, I guess, is what we need to clear this threshold and have a winner. CP3 in game one had 19, 5, and 3. That's 27 points, assists, and rebounds. But again, only played 28 minutes. Since I like the over here, and since we both kind of lean Mavericks +6, keeping this a close game, I think Paul will play minutes into the lower to mid-30s. And if he's out there, and being as efficient as we're used to seeing from Chris Paul, I like over 31.5 because, again, only 3 assists in game one. I'm pretty certain he's going to have at least 4, if not 7, 8, 9, 10 assists in this game because he is the point guard, Chris Paul. All right, that'll do it with the look at the NBA postseason. Let's pivot now and drop the puck on the ice in the NHL postseason. And we welcome in our buddy, Greg Wyshynski, the puck daddy, who is stuck in some alternate universe of red around him. We love having him on there. I know Louis Demine got thrown into action after eating some spicy pork and broccoli last night. We're throwing you to action, maybe, I don't know, in purgatory out there somewhere. But let's start with that series in the Eastern Conference that was so great last night in Game 1, Puck Daddy. Triple overtime thriller between the Rangers and the Penguins. You were there, and you saw the Penguins pull it out and take game one. They're 8-1 to win the Eastern Conference. Simple question, Puck Daddy. Is there one more run to a Stanley Cup left for Malkin and Sid the Kid in Pittsburgh?
First off, I want to say, based on the color scheme, it is Star Wars Day. I think this makes me a Sith, technically, so I'm down with that. We're in the dark with the red. So here's the thing. I don't think the Penguins can win the Cup, but I think last night was indicative of how they could win this series. If I'm the Rangers, I'm very scared right now because at 5-on-5 at even strength, that was their flaw coming into the series, the Rangers. And the Penguins, from the second period on, really did control that game at even strength. The Rangers only got 1 power play last night. The second thing I'm worried about is the fact that Sidney Crosby has been talking about since the end of the regular season how this could be the last run for their core. So Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin, Brian Rust. And guess what? That core was the reason the Penguins won the game last night. Yeah, the backup goalie of the whole thing, right? But 2 goals created by Sidney Crosby, 2 goals created and then scored by Evgeny Malkin. The Penguins, I think, have enough to get through this series. A cup run, I don't think so.
And Greg, let's switch it over to another series. So Carolina right now up 1 game on the Bruins. Bruins tonight are a slight dog. Are you looking to back them, or is there another angle that you like to play in this game?
Man, I wish I could back the Bruins because I picked them in the series, but now I feel like a dummy. Look, there are certain trends from the regular season that don't apply to the postseason. You know, the Rangers, for example, owned the Penguins in their last 3 games they played in the regular season. But the trend in which the Carolina Hurricanes have beaten the Boston Bruins from pillar to post, that's continued. The Hurricanes in the last 3 meetings between these teams have outscored the Boston Bruins 18-2. The first game of this series looked like the previous 2 games against these teams. Again, the Bruins are a veteran team. They could probably find a way to get back into this series. But tonight, in that arena against Carolina, I don't like them on the money line. If I'm going anywhere on this game, I'm going to go over the 5.5 total in this one. I do think we'll see some goals, especially with Linus Ullmark back in the net for the Boston Bruins. But I cannot in good faith pick them against Carolina tonight.
Puck Daddy, there certainly was not a more dominant Game 1 performance than the Toronto Maple Leafs blanking the 2-time defending Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning 5-0 in Game 1. Do you think the 2-time defending Cup champs can bounce back and get a win in Game 2 as a +115 moneyline underdog?
It is tempting, isn't it? And even more tempting is the fact that when the Tampa Bay Lightning lose, they usually then win. They are 14-0 in the last 2 postseasons after losses. Andrei Vasilevsky, their all-world goaltender, has a 1.35 goals against average in those games. So they tend to make adjustments. They tend to do fine. And in fact, teams that have lost by that margin of victory for the Leafs in Game 1 have come back, and they're 15-11 in the next game since 2015. So some things trending in the right direction for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think I'd hedge to take them in this game. I like the adjustments. I like Coach John Cooper making those adjustments. But what worries me a little bit is this the Tampa Bay Lightning team that we saw win back-to-back Cups, or is it more like the Tampa Bay Lightning team that got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets in the opening round a few years ago? I guess we'll find out in Game 2.
And the last game on the board, we had the Blues versus the Wild. We know the St. Louis Blues, they were able to get that Game 1 win, which I'm sure Tyler was very happy about. That's one of his teams. Able to shut them out. Do you think tonight that will happen once again, or do you have another favorite bet?
Well, I don't know if it'll be a shutout. I'm hoping that the Minnesota Wild just had some Game 1 jitters, playing in front of a very enthusiastic home crowd, trying everything they can to make that crowd pop, and coming up against a St. Louis Blues team that played some very good defense in front of Ville Husso, their goaltender, making his first postseason start and playing really, really solidly. So I am loving the St. Louis Blues defense a little bit more than I'm loving the Minnesota Wild offense right now. So my play in this game is under 3.5 goals for the Wild against the Blues and Husso. Doesn't mean they won't win the game. They could maybe win a tight one, but I don't think it's necessary. I can't imagine them hanging 4 goals on Husso if he plays as well in this game as he did in Game 1.
Yeah, Puck Daddy, I obviously was very happy with that Game 1 performance because Minnesota's been so great on their home ice. There is a prop I love in this game, and it's Kirill Kaprizov to post at least 4 shots. Over 3.5 is at even money. Now down to -125. It was even money earlier before I talked about it on the Daily Wager podcast. But we know Kaprizov is one of the 5-10 best talents offensively in the NHL. He had 5 shots on goal in Game 1. And I don't think Husso and the Blues are going to blank them again, and I think that Minnesota offense is going to be very aggressive trying to throw pucks on net when they're in the offensive zone because their fans don't want to see them get blanked again at home, and this is their best offensive player, a guy who was 5th in the NHL in scoring, 5th in the NHL in goals scored this season. So Kaprizov over 3.5 shots, is that something you'd recommend as well?
I would, because on home ice, he's one of the best shot generators in the game. My only point of concern here is the number that the St. Louis Blues did on Kaprizov's line, obviously shutting them out in Game 1, but also they didn't get a single high-danger shot attempt against Ville Husso in Game 1. So maybe those shots from the outside, you get the prop, but if you're looking at Kaprizov and his mates to maybe gain a point or score a goal, you might want to look elsewhere because the Blues really found a way to keep him and his line in check in Game 1.
All right, let's wrap up real quickly with this Kings-Oilers matchup. Kings pulled off that big upset in Game 1. Oilers are a big favorite tonight, -200 on the money line here. Would you be comfortable laying that juice? Do you think Conor McGregor and the Oilers do bounce back and tie this thing up at 1 game apiece?
McGregor, McDavid, they'll all be good tonight, my friend. And as long as
Five in the jar.
As long
Five
as
in the
Mike
jar
Smith
for me.
doesn't gift wrap the win for the LA Kings, they should be in good shape. But my play in this one is the under 6.5. I like that one in this game.
Yeah, shame on me big time there. Connor McDavid, of course, one of the world's best hockey athletes, Conor McGregor. Kind of a washed MMA athlete right now, but don't tell him I said that. I don't need him coming looking for me.
He'll find you.
The Sith Lord and Papa Bear Puck Daddy, Greg Wyshynski, dropping by to bring us some winners here on the ice. Good stuff as always, Puck Daddy. We'll be chatting throughout this NHL postseason.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, Erin, let's real quickly wrap up with, and I got your name right, thankfully. I can't believe I called him Conor McGregor, Conor McDavid. Before we let you go, anything that you want to share with our viewers out there, whether it comes from any other sport that we haven't discussed here, just a quick bet that you like out the door that could help our viewers line their pockets with some cash.
Yes, in Major League Baseball, CJ Cron, we're going to take him to have a home run at any time, of course. Now, yesterday, we did the long ball shots on Daily Wager, and mine hit Alvarez from the Houston Astros, which was really surprising because it's tough to hit back-to-back home runs, but he was able to do it. And I also think, considering that Crown was able to have a home run in the past 2 games, he's going to be able to use, bats are hot right now. You also look at the total for this game. It's at 10.5. It's one of the highest totals. So I do think that he'll be able to have a home run in this game, just considering he's going against Patrick Corbin, who has an 8.7 ERA this season, which is just terrible. So we're going to take him to have a home run.
Hey, kudos to you for Jordan yesterday. I think you have 2 long ball, long shot hits so far this season on Daily Wager. I don't think anyone else. Maybe Doug has one with Rowdy Tellez. So you're leading long ball, long shots. Listen to her, people, and she's right. Coors Field, Patrick Corbin stinks. Platoon advantage for CJ Cron. I don't think that's crazy at all. The guy's been tearing the cover off the ball. I think he leads Major League Baseball in homers. I'm real quickly going to offer up a Brewers first inning over 2.5 runs over Vlad Gutierrez and the Cincinnati Reds. Gutierrez 0-4 this season with a 7.41 ERA and a whip approaching 2. He has allowed 3 earned runs in each of his last 3 starts, and neither has made it through the 5th inning. So picking on Vlad Gutierrez, the first 5 over 2.5 for the Milwaukee Brewers. All right, that'll do it for a fashionably late bet. Good luck to your Sixers tonight. Good luck to my Blues tonight. But no matter whether you're watching NBA or NHL, hope you out there have some winners. We'll see you back here Friday for another edition of Bet.